My name is Iris Lawson. I'm 32 years old, and the day I collapsed at work was the day I learned exactly where I stood in my family. I remember the cold fluorescent lights buzzing above me as I opened my eyes on the hospital bed, confused, weak, and terrified. The nurse leaned over me, her voice gentle but laced with urgency. "Miss Lawson, we called your parents. They know you're here." And I remember whispering, "Okay, thank you." I thought they would come rushing in, panicked and breathless, hugging me and crying over me the way parents do in movies. But instead, my phone buzzed, a notification. My heartbeat jumped, expecting a text from mom or dad. But no, it was a tag. My sister, Cassidy, posting a picture of herself at a brunch spot, smiling with a caption that read, "Self-care first, you can't pour from an empty cup. SONDAY reset." And she tagged me. She tagged me, as if that was somehow the support I needed while I lay in a hospital bed hooked to IV fluids. That was the moment something inside me cracked. Not because she didn't show up, but because tagging me felt like a deliberate message. I know what's happening to you, and I still don't care enough to come. Shock froze in my chest before the heartbreak even started to settle. Why would my own sister, who knew how much I struggled lately, ignore my emergency? Why would my parents, who were called directly by the hospital, not show up either? But before I pull you fully into that moment, if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of this story, because what happened next changed my entire life. Flashback to 3 weeks before the collapse. I was sitting on the edge of my bed in my small apartment in Charlotte, North Carolina, staring at the wall, clutching the note my mom had left on my counter after her surprise visit the night before. "You need to stop overreacting. Life is not that hard, Iris." She had let herself in with the spare key she refused to return, lecturing me about my dramatic tendencies, about how I needed to push through exhaustion because everyone else in the family works harder than you. I remember nodding quietly as she spoke, letting her words stab me the way they always did. Mom had always believed Cassidy was the strong one, the stable one, the responsible daughter. I was the emotional one, the sensitive one, the one she never fully respected. But it wasn't always like that. When we were kids, Cassidy and I used to be inseparable. She was 2 years older, but we were more like twins, laughing, running through our backyard, building cardboard houses, fighting imaginary dragons with sticks for swords. I used to think we'd grow up and stay close, that she'd be my maid of honor someday, that we'd raise our kids like siblings. But somewhere between high school and adulthood, something in her changed. Or maybe she just revealed who she truly was. She became sharper, colder, obsessed with appearances and social status, and Mom adored it. The more perfect Cassidy pretended to be, the more praise she received. The more I struggled with anxiety, with finding my career path, with simply needing emotional support, the more I became the problem child. Over time, Cassidy learned something dangerous. Mom's approval was currency, and she used it to buy superiority over me. 2 months before the collapse, the distance between us grew even more. I had just been promoted at my job, something I was proud of, and I invited my family for dinner to celebrate. Dad didn't come because he was tired. Mom arrived with a tight smile and her arms crossed, saying, "I hope you can handle the responsibilities. You're not great under pressure." Cassidy came late, wearing a new designer coat, announcing before she even sat down, "Oh, by the way, I got approved for the mortgage. I'm buying a house." My celebration turned into her spotlight. I remember staring at the candles on the table, feeling my chest tighten, trying not to cry. And Mom clapped for her excitedly, saying, "Cass, you never disappoint." Not, "We're proud of you" to me. Not, "Congratulations, Iris." Nothing. It was like I didn't exist. That night, after they left, I sat alone at the table, staring at the untouched dessert, wondering why nothing I did was ever enough. But the real tension started building the week right before I collapsed. Something felt off at work. My supervisor, Jenna, pulled me into her office with a concerned expression. Iris, your performance has been slipping. Missed emails, forgotten tasks. Are you okay? I forced a smile and lied. Yeah, just tired. The truth was, I had barely slept in days. Stress was eating me alive. The migraines, the stomach aches, the heart palpitations, everything felt tangled. I reached out to my mom, hoping for comfort. She sighed and said, "You're 32, Iris. Life is stressful for everyone. You just need to toughen up." I reached out to Cassidy. She left me on scene. I remember lying awake that night, staring at the ceiling in the darkness, wondering why my family treated me like a burden instead of a human being. Was I really that hard to love? Was I really that easy to dismiss? 3 days before my collapse, the argument that truly shattered me happened. Mom called, asking if I could help Cassidy move a few boxes to her new house. I had a critical meeting that day, one I had spent weeks preparing for. I told her I couldn't. Mom immediately grew cold. "You're always making excuses. Cassidy would help you if you needed her." That was a lie, and we both knew it. But before I could respond, Mom added a line that hit me harder than any slap across the face. Honestly, Iris, sometimes I wonder how we ended up with two daughters who are so different. One dependable, one always falling apart. I hung up. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped my phone. I went to the bathroom, stared into the mirror, and whispered, "Why don't they love me?" Tears blurred my vision. I splashed cold water on my face, put on a smile, and went to work. That fake smile was the last thing I remember before everything went black. Back in the hospital, the doctor walked in shortly after I woke up. His voice was calm and serious. "Miss Lawson, you're severely dehydrated, anemic, and extremely exhausted. Your body shut down from stress." I asked him again, "My parents, they didn't come?" He hesitated. "We called them twice. They said they were unavailable." My stomach twisted. Unavailable? For their daughter? For their daughter who was lying unconscious in a hospital? My eyes filled with tears, and he gently handed me a tissue. "Do you have anyone else we can call? A close friend?" And in that moment, the reality hit me. I didn't. Not really. Most of my friends drifted away over the years because I spent so long trying to fix things with my family that I neglected every other connection. I whispered, "No, it's just them." But the truth was, it had never been just them. It had always been me, holding on to a version of my family that never actually existed. When the doctor left, I stared at the wall, numb. My phone buzzed again. Another notification. Cassidy had posted a story, her holding a mimosa, smiling brightly. "Brunch with the besties. Sundays are for joy." I felt something inside me snap. It wasn't anger, not at first. It was clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. They didn't show up because they didn't think I mattered. They didn't think my pain was real. They didn't think I was worth the inconvenience. And maybe they never had. I slowly turned my head toward the door, half hoping they would walk in. Mom with her stiff hug, Dad with his awkward silence, Cassidy fake smiling as she pretended to care. But the doorway remained empty. Hours later, just as I drifted off, the door finally opened. My heart jumped, only to drop when I saw the face peeking inside. Not Mom, not Dad, not Cassidy, but someone I hadn't seen in years, someone whose presence made my pulse spike in a mixture of confusion and old resentment. My childhood best friend, Elena Burke. She stepped into the room hesitantly, clutching her bag like she wasn't sure she belonged there. I saw your sister's post," she whispered, "and something told me it wasn't the whole story, so I came." My jaw tightened. Tears filled my eyes again, not because she was here, but because she cared more than my own family. And before I could speak, she walked fully inside, closing the door behind her and revealing a truth I was not prepared to hear. Elena looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Iris, I need to tell you something about your sister, something she's been hiding from you for years." Elena stood there at the foot of my hospital bed, her expression soft but tense, like she was holding something fragile and dangerous at the same time. I hadn't seen her in almost 4 years, not since the falling out that neither of us ever clarified, both of us too stubborn or too hurt to reach out again. But now she was here, breathing heavily as if she'd sprinted across the entire city just to find me. "What about my sister?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Everything inside me felt raw, sore, hollow. The last thing I wanted was another wound, but the look on Alina's face told me the truth was coming whether I was ready or not. She sank into the chair beside my bed, fingers twisting nervously. "Before I say anything, Iris, I need you to know I didn't come here to make things worse. I came because you deserve to know the truth. You've deserved it for a long time." My heart thudded painfully. "Just tell me." She took a deep breath. "Your sister has been telling people for years that you're unstable." My jaw tightened. "Unstable?" "She's told your coworkers, your extended family, even some of our old friends from back then. She's painted this picture of you as someone dramatic, unreliable, and emotionally unpredictable." I felt a coldness spread through my chest. It wasn't shock, not entirely. It was recognition, the pieces clicking into place. "That's why people kept pulling away from me," I whispered. Elena nodded slowly. "Yes, and I didn't realize the full extent of it until recently. I bumped into someone at a work conference a few months ago, someone who remembered that I used to be your friend. She said Cassidy told her you had episodes, that you were the sister who always needed rescuing, that you made things up to get attention." My throat tightened, and I looked away, blinking hard. I thought of all the times people acted strange around me, all the subtle hesitations, all the moments of quiet judgment I could never explain. The puzzle finally had edges, but the center was still blurry. "Why would she do that?" I whispered. It came out cracked. Elena hesitated. "Because people liked you too much." I stared at her. "What?" She shifted in her seat, leaning in. "In high school, in college, even at your first job, you were the one people naturally gravitated to. You were warm, empathetic, funny without trying. Cassidy hated that. She wanted to be the favorite, not just with your mom, but everywhere. And the easiest way to stay on top was to make you look small." The words sliced through me. Memories flashed quickly. Cassidy glaring when someone complimented me, rolling her eyes when people laughed at my jokes, dismissing my accomplishments in front of others. All things I brushed off at the time. All signs I ignored because I thought sisters were supposed to be messy and complicated sometimes. But this was intentional. "I didn't know it got that bad," Elena said softly. "But I should have said something, and I'm sorry." I looked at her for a long moment. Her eyes were watery but steady. Strangely, I didn't feel anger toward her, just exhaustion, and a small, unexpected warmth. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. Elena swallowed hard. "Because what she did today, posting that brunch picture while you were in a hospital bed, it's not neglect, Iris, it's cruelty, and I'm done watching her hurt you." For a few moments, neither of us said anything. The beeping heart monitor filled the silence, steady and patient, the opposite of everything inside my body. My entire life, I thought I was the broken one, the sensitive one, the one who needed to toughen up. But now, sitting in that bed, I realized that maybe sensitivity wasn't the problem. Maybe the problem was giving my heart to people who didn't know what to do with it. I took a shaky breath. "Elena, why did you and I stop talking?" Her expression shifted. Guilt, regret, something darker. "Cassidy," she whispered. The name hit like a blade. She told me you didn't want me around anymore. She said you felt suffocated by me. I felt the air leave my lungs. I never said that. I know, she replied, voice trembling. I know that now, but at the time she sounded so convincing. And you were drifting emotionally because of everything at home. I thought maybe it was true. So I stepped back. Then you stepped back. Then both of us just let it die. I felt my eyes burn again. I missed you, I said. The truth poured out before I could stop it. I missed you too, she murmured. That's why I'm here. Something about her presence felt grounding, like she was the only familiar thread left in a tapestry that had unraveled long ago. Before I could speak again, the door opened and a nurse stepped in to check my vitals. I stayed quiet, staring at the ceiling while she adjusted the IV. Her cheerful demeanor contrasted so sharply with the weight of the conversation that I almost felt dizzy. You've got a visitor waiting outside, the nurse said with a smile before leaving. Elena and I exchanged a confused glance. Do you want me to step out? She asked. I shook my head. No, stay. The door opened again and my heart dropped. It was my mother. She walked in like she was entering a workplace meeting, not a hospital room where her daughter had collapsed. Her eyes scanned the room, paused on Elena with a flash of irritation, then landed on me with something I couldn't quite read. Iris, she said. No hug, no rush to my side, no apology, just my name, flat and clipped. I came because your father insisted. Insisted. Not because she cared, not because she was worried, but because someone else pushed her to. Are you okay? She asked, but her tone made it sound more like an obligation than a question. Elena shifted beside me, her jaw tightening. I responded quietly, I'm recovering. Mom nodded stiffly, as if that concluded everything. Good, because you really need to start managing your stress better. This whole incident is unnecessary. Unnecessary? My stomach twisted. I collapsed, Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My body literally shut down. Yes, well, people collapse all the time. It's dramatic, but it's not the end of the world. Elena sucked in a breath. Mom continued. Cassidy is very upset with you, by the way. Your little episode ruined her brunch. Something inside me broke open. Ruined her brunch, I repeated slowly. Mom crossed her arms. She had plans with friends. She's been very stressed lately too, you know. The last thing she needed was to drop everything because you wanted attention again. My breath caught in my throat. Again. There it was. The word she'd branded onto me since childhood. Attention. As if I hadn't spent my whole life begging for peace, not attention. Elena stood abruptly. Mrs. Lawson, with all due respect, I wasn't speaking to you. This is family business. Elena looked at me, waiting for permission. I nodded. Say it, I told her softly. Please. Mom stiffened. Say what? Elena faced her fully. Tell her the truth. That you and Cassidy have been undermining her for years, that you choose favorites, that you let your older daughter manipulate you into thinking Iris is weak just so she can stay your golden child. My mother looked genuinely offended, as if Elena had insulted her honor. That is an outrageous accusation. Cassidy has never manipulated anything. She's responsible, she's successful, she's reliable, unlike some people. She threw a pointed look. My chest tightened. My mother took a slow step toward me. If you spent half as much energy being productive as you do being emotional, Iris, your life would be much easier. The words felt like knives, old familiar knives, but this time, something was different. The knives weren't sinking in the way they always had. Something inside me had hardened. Something was waking up. Mom, I whispered. Why didn't you come when the hospital called me? She blinked, taken aback. I told you we were busy. Doing what? Cassidy needed help setting up her dining room. She's hosting a housewarming next week. My mouth fell open. So you chose decorating over your daughter in the hospital? Don't make this about guilt, Iris. You know how sensitive you can be. You're overreacting again. This time, I didn't swallow my feelings. I didn't shrink. I didn't apologize. Instead, I said the sentence I never thought I'd say. Please leave. My mother froze. What did you just say? Leave. My voice shook but held. I don't want you here right now. For the first time in my life, I watched her face shift, not with anger, not with disappointment, but with something almost like confusion. She stared at me for a long moment, then turned sharply and walked out without another word. The door closed behind her with a soft thud. The silence that followed was heavy and trembling, but it was mine, for the first time ever. Mine. Elena reached for my hand. Iris, I'm proud of you. I let out a shaky breath, tears gathering again. But before I could speak, my phone buzzed on the bedside table. A new text from an unknown number. I picked it up slowly. The message read, "If you think Mom was bad, wait until you hear what Cassidy did behind your back last year." My pulse spiked. I looked at Elena. It's from an unsaved number. The second message appeared instantly. "Meet me tomorrow, alone. It's about your job." The sender's name popped up, someone I never expected to hear from again. It was my ex-boyfriend. I stared at my phone, frozen. My ex-boyfriend's number blinking on the screen brought a flood of memories I had tried to lock away. His name was Nathan Rivers, and we had a history that was messy, complicated, and full of secrets. We broke up 2 years ago, mostly because of Cassidy. Yes, Cassidy. She had somehow inserted herself into the cracks of my life again, subtly, invisibly, but painfully. Back then, I had been dating Nathan quietly, trying to keep a balance between my family chaos and my own happiness. Everything was fine until Cassidy found out and began whispering doubts into Nathan's ears, manipulating him into believing I was hiding things from him, that I was too unstable for a serious relationship. And somehow, Nathan, who had always been level-headed, let her words seep in. It ended in heartbreak. And now, after all this time, he was texting me, alone, about my job. My chest tightened as I read the next message. "You don't know the full story about last year. Cassidy didn't just ruin your personal life, she's been sabotaging your career too. Meet me, 6 p.m., the cafe on Main Street, alone." I glanced at Elena. I don't know if I should go. She studied me carefully. "Iris, you've spent your life letting them decide your value, letting Cassidy and even your parents dictate how you feel. This could be the truth you need, but you have to be careful. Trust your instincts." I nodded slowly, heart thundering. Something inside me stirred, a mixture of fear and anticipation, but also the strange thrill of finally standing up for myself. The next morning at work, I tried to focus. My head still throbbed from the collapse, my body weak, but my mind raced with possibilities. What had Cassidy done? How far did her manipulation go? As I sat at my desk staring at spreadsheets and emails, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from a blocked number. I hesitated before opening it. "Be careful who you trust. Cassidy isn't done, not by a long shot." I swallowed hard. Fear and anger twisted together inside me like a knot. How had my sister managed to control so many aspects of my life without me noticing? But I also realized something terrifying. I had been blind for too long, letting her lies define me. That evening, I made my way to the cafe. It was quiet, the golden glow of the streetlights reflecting off the rain-slicked pavement. The bell over the door chimed softly as I entered, scanning the room. Nathan sat in the corner, hoodie pulled low over his face, eyes locked on me the moment I stepped inside. Relief, Guilt and anxiety collided in his expression. He stood and motioned for me to sit. The first words out of his mouth were, "Iris, I'm so sorry." I exhaled slowly. "About what?" My voice was steady but cold. "Everything," he said. "About leaving, about listening to her, about not believing you. I had no idea what she was capable of." My chest tightened. "Nathan, why now? Why come to me now?" He hesitated. "Because I found something she's been hiding for over a year, and it's about your job, about your promotion." I felt a shiver run through me. "Go on." He leaned in, voice low. "Cassidy has been sending anonymous complaints about you to HR. Every mistake, every minor slip, she magnified, added lies, made it seem like you were unstable and unreliable. She didn't just manipulate your personal life, she sabotaged your career too." I blinked, trying to breathe. I remembered the sudden cold stares in meetings, the emails from HR asking for explanations, the times my boss gave me feedback that didn't make sense. Cassidy, she had done it all. And worse, she had done it knowing I was already exhausted, already stressed. Anger, hot and fierce, surged inside me. I felt tears prick my eyes, not sadness this time, but rage. I whispered, "Why? Why would she do this?" Nathan looked at me solemnly. "Because she thrives on control. She's always wanted to be the golden daughter, the perfect sister, and anyone who threatens that, well, they have to be eliminated. You, Iris, were her biggest threat." The words echoed in my mind, and I felt something break open inside me. For years, I had blamed myself, doubted myself, wondered if I was too emotional, too sensitive, too weak. But now, the truth slapped me awake. I wasn't weak. I'd just been up against someone who was willing to destroy me to protect her own image. I left the cafe with a storm inside me, rain drizzling softly on my face. My thoughts whirled. How could I confront this? How could I stand up to a sister who had undermined me for years without any fear of consequence? As I walked home, a memory surfaced, a text message I had received last year, supposedly from a recruiter congratulating me on a new project. I remembered replying excitedly, only to have the offer rescinded without explanation. At the time, I had blamed myself, thinking maybe I wasn't qualified, maybe I wasn't good enough. But now, I realized Cassidy had sent that fake message herself, testing me, undermining me. She had been systematically dismantling my confidence, piece by piece. The next day at work, I decided I needed proof. I dug through emails, HR reports, messages, and anything I could find that connected Cassidy to the sabotage. It wasn't easy. She had been careful, leaving almost no trace. But I noticed patterns. Anonymous complaints sent right after her visits to my office, emails with her IP masked, small manipulations in internal communications. My stomach churned. How long had she been doing this? How long had I been struggling under her shadow, believing my failures were my own? By the time the clock hit 5 p.m., I had collected enough circumstantial evidence to confront her, enough to start reclaiming my life. That evening, I called Elena. "I have everything," I said, voice trembling but determined. "I can finally face her." She exhaled, a mix of relief and concern. "Be careful, she's dangerous when cornered." I nodded. "I know, but I can't keep hiding. I can't let her win anymore." We made a plan. Elena would come with me when I confronted Cassidy, making sure I wasn't alone. But inside, I knew the confrontation wouldn't be easy. Cassidy had a way of turning every argument back on me, of making me feel guilty even when I was right. I steeled myself. I couldn't afford to falter this time. The next day, I drove to Cassidy's new house. It was pristine, the kind of perfect suburban home that screamed success, approval, and control. Everything about her life looked flawless. just like she wanted it. I rang the doorbell, and Cassidy opened it immediately, her smile wide but forced. "Iris, what a surprise!" She stepped aside, letting me in, and my stomach twisted. I noticed the faint scent of candles and the gleam of freshly polished floors. Everything was curated, controlled. I swallowed. "Cassidy, we need to talk." Her smile faltered slightly. "About what?" I felt a surge of courage. "About what you've been doing to me for years." Her eyes narrowed, sharp, calculating. "Iris, I don't know what you mean." I held up my folder of evidence. Emails, HR reports, screenshots, dates, times, everything lined up in black and white. I mean this. Every anonymous complaint, every lie, every time you turned people against me. I know what you've done. Cassidy's lips pressed into a thin line. Her eyes flicked to the folder and back to me. Then she laughed, low, controlled, fake. "So, you finally realized it. I was worried you'd never figure it out." My pulse surged. "Why?" I demanded. "Why hurt me like this? Why sabotage my life?" Her smile turned cold. "Because you always had what I wanted. Attention, love, success. And you were going to take it all without thinking about me. I couldn't allow that." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Years of doubt, shame, humiliation, all of it distilled into this moment. And yet, for the first time, I didn't cry. I didn't shrink. I stood taller than I had in years. "Iris," she said slowly, "you'll never be stronger than me. You'll always be the weak one." I shook my head, finally understanding something fundamental. Strength wasn't about being the favorite. It wasn't about control or perfection. Strength was reclaiming your own power, and that's exactly what I was doing. As Cassidy stepped closer, her tone icy, a text buzzed on my phone. I glanced down and froze. Another anonymous message, same unsaved number, simple and terrifying. "She's not done. Prepare yourself. Tonight, she'll try to ruin everything, alone." The warning text still glowed on my phone as I stood in Cassidy's living room, heart hammering, palms slick with sweat. "She's not done. Prepare yourself. Tonight, she'll try to ruin everything, alone." I looked up at Cassidy, whose cold smile had not wavered. My chest tightened. She had always known how to intimidate, how to make people doubt themselves. And for a moment, I felt the old familiar panic creeping in. But then I remembered the hospital bed, the emptiness when my parents didn't show, the betrayal Elena revealed about Cassidy's sabotage at work, and a slow, steady rage replaced the fear. I was done being powerless. I took a deep breath. "Cassidy," I began, voice trembling but firm. "You've lied, manipulated, and sabotaged me for years. You've made people doubt me, made me doubt myself, and even hurt my career. And now I know everything. Why? Why do you feel the need to destroy the people closest to you just to stay on top?" Cassidy laughed, low and sharp. "Iris, you think it's about staying on top? It's about survival. Life isn't fair. Some of us have to fight to be seen. I did what I had to do." Her words were chilling because underneath that cold facade, she truly believed she was justified. "No," I said, stepping closer, holding my head high. "It's not survival. It's cruelty, and I'm done letting you dictate my life." She arched an eyebrow. "Done? You think it's that easy?" I ignored her and held up the folder of evidence I had collected. Emails, screenshots, HR notes, everything pointing to her lies. "Look at this, Cassidy. Do you really think you can control me anymore? I have proof. I know everything." Her eyes flicked over the folder, and for a split second, I saw something I had never seen in her before. Fear. But Cassidy was quick. She leaned in, voice low, dangerous. Do you really think I'm the only one playing games here? Confusion and dread mingled in my chest. What? What do you mean? She smiled, that cold, calculated smile. Nathan isn't the only one who knows my secrets. Your so-called best friend Elena, she has her own skeletons. And tonight, Iris, if you think you're safe confronting me alone, you're wrong. My stomach dropped. The pieces didn't fit. Elena had been with me, helping me. Had she betrayed me too? Cassidy watched my face carefully, delight flickering in her eyes. You always trust too easily, little sister. That's why you've been easy to manipulate. My hands tightened around the folder, nails biting into the paper. I couldn't believe it. My heart raced, my mind spun with fear, betrayal, confusion. And yet, in the back of my head, a voice whispered, "Focus. Remember who you are. You are not the same girl they tried to break." Just then, Cassidy's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I saw her expression shift. Irritation, disbelief, and anger all at once. She muttered under her breath and stepped aside for a moment. I took a chance. "Elena, you didn't betray me, did you?" Elena had been standing by the doorway quietly. Her eyes locked with mine, steady and honest. "Never. I came to protect you, always." Relief flooded me, so deep it made my knees weak. Cassidy, back in the room, didn't notice the subtle exchange. She was too focused on her own plans. I had to think fast. Cassidy was dangerous, emotionally manipulative, and ruthless, but I was stronger than I had realized. I opened the folder and spread it across the coffee table. "Look at this, Cassidy. All your lies, all your sabotage, all the people you manipulated to make yourself feel superior, you can't deny it now. You've lost your control over me." She glared, the tension in the room thick enough to choke on. "You think this changes anything?" she spat. "Iris, you're nothing without me. You'll always be the weak one, the over-emotional one. People will always believe me before they believe you." I shook my head. "No, Cassidy, not anymore. I'm done being the weak one. I'm done letting you decide my worth. And if people choose to believe you, fine. But I know the truth, and I finally believe in myself." For the first time, I saw Cassidy hesitate, her usual certainty faltering. That small crack gave me courage. I stood taller. "I'm going to the HR office tomorrow. I'm going to show them everything, and I'm going to stop hiding from life because of your lies." She laughed again, sharp and bitter. "Go ahead, Iris, but don't expect people to suddenly see the real you. They've known your episodes for years. They've laughed, judged, and doubted. You can't fix that." I swallowed the fear, but didn't back down. Maybe not, but I can control how I move forward from now. I can control me, and that's what matters. Cassidy's phone buzzed again, and she stepped out, leaving me and Elena alone. The room felt like it was holding its breath. I exhaled, tears threatening to fall. "I can't believe she did all of this to me," I whispered. Elena took my hand, squeezing it firmly. "I know, and you didn't deserve any of it. But now you can take your life back." The next day, I walked into my office with renewed purpose. I scheduled a meeting with HR, presenting the evidence I had gathered. They listened, eyes widening, scrolling through screenshots and emails, nodding gravely. "Iris, this is serious. We need to investigate. Thank you for bringing this forward." Relief mingled with fear. This confrontation wasn't just about Cassidy anymore. It was about reclaiming every piece of my life she had tried to steal. That evening, I returned home to my apartment, exhausted but strangely light. I looked at the mirror, really looked at myself for the first time in years. The face staring back was tired, yes, but determined, strong, resilient. I realized something. Life hadn't broken me. My family hadn't broken me. Cassidy hadn't broken me. All of them, the lies, the betrayals, the manipulations, they had tested me. But I had survived. I had risen from the collapse, from the neglect, from the humiliation, and I had learned something vital. My worth was never in their hands. It had always been mine. A week later, my parents tried to reach out. My phone buzzed with a message from Mom. "Iris, we're sorry. Can we talk?" I stared at it, feeling the old familiar pang of longing, but I didn't rush. I didn't feel the need to explain myself or justify my feelings. I typed back, "I'm healing. That's what matters right now." And I put the phone down. Not anger, not hatred, just clarity and boundaries. I would decide when and how to let people back in. Cassidy tried calling a few days later, but I didn't pick up. She left messages, each more frantic and desperate than the last. But I had learned something crucial. I didn't need her validation. I didn't need her approval. I didn't need her chaos in my life. I could breathe without her, live without her, thrive without her. Therapy became my anchor. I started working with a counselor, untangling decades of emotional neglect and betrayal, learning to identify manipulative behavior, and finally, learning to love myself. I reconnected with old friends, including Elena, who became my lifeline in those first months of rebuilding. Slowly, carefully, I rebuilt my sense of trust, my confidence, my voice. I spoke up at work, asked for recognition, took projects I had always dreamed of handling. Each small victory became a brick in the foundation of my empowerment. Months later, I received a promotion I had been denied for years. Standing at my office window, looking out at the city skyline, I felt an overwhelming sense of triumph. Not because Cassidy's sabotage had been exposed, not because HR had acknowledged the truth, but because I had survived, grown, and reclaimed my life. The betrayal, the pain, the heartbreak, they had shaped me, yes, but they had not defined me. And now, when I look at my reflection, I don't see the girl who collapsed in a hospital bed ignored by her family. I see Iris Lawson, 32 years old, a woman who faced betrayal, heartbreak, and manipulation, and walked out stronger, wiser, and unbroken. Life lesson: true strength isn't about controlling others or being seen as perfect. True strength is knowing your worth, setting boundaries, and choosing to walk away from toxicity, even when it comes from the people you once loved most. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means reclaiming your life on your own terms. I still think about Cassidy sometimes. I hope she changes. I hope she realizes the harm she's caused. But I no longer depend on her, or anyone else, to define me. I found peace in my own voice, my own choices, my own power. And for the first time in my life, I am free. Have you ever experienced betrayal like this? Have you had someone close to you undermine your life while pretending to care? Share your story in the comments. I want to hear how you've reclaimed your power too.